Hello, and welcome to Shrink, the podcast for the mind. I'm Philippe and I talk to the people who want to have a better understanding of their issues with weight and body image. I find it hard to believe, but this is the 70th episode of Shrink, the podcast for the mind. I'm amazed because I had no idea. I just looked at the stats and I wasn't really counting. And 70th. It's something I started a few years ago. I think it was during COVID. And now there are more and more of you listening to it, sharing it. And I really want to thank you for that. I'm very, very grateful. I'm putting a lot of energy in finding the best guests, people who are experts in their domain, people who know what they're talking about and are happy to share it with us. So I must say in the coming months, there will be great surprises, amazing guests, and I'm excited. I'm like a kid with his toy, with his new toy that he received for Christmas. Anyway, let's not wait any longer. This is the 70th episode, and it's called Living a Mindful Life. So today, we are diving into something that may sound simple, but is actually quite transformative. Living a Mindful Life. It's in fact the title of a talk that I will give in the coming weeks. And as I was working on that talk, I thought, well, in fact, it's a really good topic for a podcast as well. So there we go. Now, when people hear the word mindfulness, most of the time they think of meditation or sitting still on a cushion with their eyes closed. And yes, that's one part of it. But mindfulness is really about being awake to your life. It's about noticing what's happening in your body, your mind, your relationships, and even in those tiny everyday moments, like drinking your morning coffee or walking down the street. So today I want to explore what living mindfully can actually look like in practice, in real life. We'll touch on mindful eating, of course, but also sleep, social life, work, and relationships. Let's start with the basics. Mindfulness is simply paying attention, on purpose, to the present moment and doing so with kindness rather than judgment. It's not about being perfectly calm or having no thoughts. We don't live like Buddhist monks. We live a very hectic life most of the time. There are many ways to be distracted. It's about noticing what's there. And when we do this regularly, life feels less like it's rushing past us and more like something we're actively participating in. You don't need a silent retreat or an hour-long practice. Mindfulness is something you can weave into your daily routine. Now let's talk about mindful eating, to start with, because that's where many people first come across mindfulness, I think. Anyway, that's a topic that I talk a lot about, mindful eating, because I really believe it makes a difference when you're having issues with your weight, when you feel like you're eating in a way which is not healthy for you. So often we eat on autopilot. We're scrolling on our phones, we're watching TV, we're grabbing food between meetings. When we eat this way, it's easy to miss our body signals. Am I actually hungry? Am I full? Do I even enjoy what I'm eating? Mindful eating is about slowing down, tasting your food, and noticing how it feels in your body. You don't need to turn every meal into a long ritual, but even taking a few mindful bites can shift your relationship with food. Try asking yourself, what does this food actually taste like? Am I enjoying it? Is it sweet or savory? Or is it both? How does my body feel as I eat? Am I satisfied or am I still hungry? It's amazing how these small check-ins can help you feel more nourished, less guilty, and more connected to yourself. But it requires some practice. At first you will maybe kind of wonder what am I doing here? But with time, please trust me with this, it will really make a difference. How about sleep as a mindful practice? Mindfulness is not just about what we do when we're awake. Sleep is another area where awareness matters, and it matters a lot. Many of us drag our phones into bed, scroll until midnight, and then wonder why they're exhausted. A mindful approach to sleep might look like this. Noticing when your body feels tired and responding instead of pushing through. Creating a gentle wind-down ritual, maybe reading, stretching, or simply dimming the lights. Checking in how your sleep affects your mood, your cravings, and your focus the next day. When we give sleep the respect it deserves, everything else, our eating, our relationships, everything else feels more balanced. And it's in fact one of the first things that I ask my new clients: how do you sleep? Do you feel rested in the morning? Because I know that if that's not the case, it's going to make our work much more difficult. It's going to be difficult for them to eat more mindfully, to lose weight if they need to feel better about themselves. If their sleep is not good, it will be more difficult to address the rest of the issues. How about mindful social life and relationships? It's something that people don't talk much about. So let's talk about our connections with others. Living mindfully in our relationships means really listening. Not planning what to say next while the other person is talking. Not half checking our phone while nodding along, but actually being present. So you might try a few things. Putting your phone away during meals with friends. You know, sometimes you see that you're having a meal with someone and they put the phone on the table between the two of you, or if it's more than two, between the four of you or whatever. But it's like, hey, we're having a conversation, we're having a meal, but then anytime I could be distracted by a call or by a notification. Asking yourself, am I really listening or am I waiting to respond? I see it. You know, sometimes I'm having a conversation with friends and they have, of course, no bad intention, but I can see they're preparing their response to what I'm telling them. Although I'm not really expecting a response. I don't really need a response. I just want to share something. But they're ready. Checking in with how you feel after spending time with certain people. Do you feel nourished or drained? In fact, it doesn't have to be after you spend time with certain people, but whilst you're spending time with them. I have a very good friend of mine, I don't know if he's listening to my podcast, but he tends to complain a lot about things. So when we see each other, and I know he's in that mood of complaining about all the terrible things that are happening to him, I tell him, I'm giving you 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to complain, and then we start talking about something else. He hates it when I say that. He always tells me, you don't listen to me. But then he understands and usually stops straight away complaining about things. I mean, it's okay to complain about certain things. We know it's not like our life is always nice and, without any pressure or without any stress, without any anxiety. But the conversations you have with certain friends are all about their issues, are all about how they're struggling with life. And usually with these conversations, there isn't any room for you. You're not really sharing with that person. It's usually them being in some kind of a victim mode, not always, but quite often. And when you leave, you think, well, what was for me in this conversation? What was for me in this coffee that I shared with that friend? And you realize, in fact, they just dropped all their shit on you, sorry for the language, and they didn't even ask you how you feel and what you're dealing with. And that's why mindfulness helps us choose relationships that support us and show up more fully in the ones that matter most. And then there is work. Many of us spend most of our waking hours working. So bringing mindfulness here can make a big difference. And that could mean, for example, pausing between tasks to take a breath instead of rushing endlessly. Or bringing your attention fully to one project at a time instead of juggling 10 tabs at once. Or noticing how your body feels during the day. Do you need a break? A stretch? A glass of water? A cup of coffee? I don't know. Do you need anything? Do you even know if you need anything? Well, no, you don't if you don't check in with yourself. Even the way we commute or run errands can become mindful. Instead of rushing with your head down, you might notice the sky, the sounds, or even the way your feet touch the ground. It's really something I've helped quite a few clients with because I do these working sessions. Sometimes we stop and I tell them, how are you feeling right now? So that's more about their emotion. But I said, what are you noticing around you? In fact, they were so much into their thoughts, and I don't blame them because that's part of the therapy. But they didn't notice the wind that was there. They didn't notice the people we crossed paths with. They didn't notice the smell of the flowers that were there along the way. And I really encourage them to be more aware of these things. Not to be distracted of their emotions or their thoughts, but to become more mindful to things in general. But I don't want to make it sound like all this is super easy and, I know you're not going to change. If you're not mindful, you're not going to change within a day. Sometimes I see myself walking down the streets and then I realize I'm walking quite fast, and I ask myself, why am I rushing? Where am I rushing to? And then I slow down. And sometimes I'm, cooking. For example, this morning I was cooking something and then I realized I wasn't breathing in the right way. I was barely breathing, I guess. Maybe because I was stressed, I wanted the recipe to be good, or maybe I had, thoughts that were somehow taking a lot of my energy or a lot of my concentration, my focus, and I wasn't breathing properly. So I stopped for a minute maybe, and I made sure that I was breathing correctly. And when I restarted cooking, I was then breathing in a better way. I don't know which other way to say it. So it's something that you have to work on. Well, you don't have to, but I really recommend that you work on this most times during the day. I think it really makes a difference. You may be in bed watching a very good series and you finish one episode and then you feel, I'm a bit tired, but I'm going to watch another one. And then 3 hours later, you're still in bed. You're really tired, but you're still watching the same series. And it's a shame because you're going to pay the price for it the next day. So, yes, I think it's something that requires your attention, a non-judgmental one, most of the time during the day. It's a nice practice. It may sound like it's quite demanding, but it's not, because every time you will be more mindful and you will notice things about your hunger, about your tiredness, about your level of stress or anxiety, you will feel better, because once you notice it, you can change things. So once you notice it, you can change it. You can tweak things so that you feel better in general about the things that you're going through throughout the day. So, living a mindful life is not about perfection, of course. It's not about meditating for hours or eating every meal in silence. It's about sprinkling awareness into the little moments during the whole day. Eating a few mindful bites, turning your phone off before bed, truly listening to a loved one. We're like truly listening, not trying to change them, not trying to find answers if they have, some things that they're dealing with. Taking a mindful breath at your desk. These small choices add up, and over time they will help us feel calmer, more connected, so in fact, more alive. And isn't that a great thing, to know that by being more mindful, you can feel more alive? I would like to add something to what I've just, all these examples I've given, all these parts of your life where you can be more mindful. It's being mindful of your negative self-talk. And this is a very big thing, in fact. It's this dialogue we have, this internal dialogue, this dialogue we have with ourselves, where we constantly judge what we do, how we look, what we say, or what we forgot to say to someone, for example. For some of us, it's non-stop. It's like we're all day long thinking we're not enough, we haven't done enough, we've done too much, we've eaten too much, we said something which wasn't pleasant to someone, or we didn't ask them what they were feeling. And it's a constant dialogue with ourselves. It's a constant negative self-talk. It's draining. It fills you with guilt. Guilt is a terrible thing, guilt and shame, in fact. And if you're more mindful, you can stop having that. Sometimes I hear myself, I hear this internal dialogue where I think, oh, maybe I should have done this like that, or maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I shouldn't have said, maybe I said the wrong thing to that person. But very quickly, sometimes it takes me 10 seconds, sometimes it takes me 10 minutes. And I'm trying to improve that for myself. I say, no, don't go down that road. It's only going to make you feel guilty or feel bad about something. It's not going to help, and I can stop it. I can stop it and move on to something more positive, or at least something which is not that negative and it's not going to drag me down. I would love to leave you with a simple practice you can try today. At some point in the next 24 hours, pause and notice 3 things you're experiencing right now. Maybe it's the sound around you. Maybe it's the feeling of your body, or the taste of something you're eating, the taste or the smell of something you're eating. That's mindfulness in action. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd love it if you would share it with a friend who might need a gentle reminder to slow down. And as always, feel free to reach out to me. I love hearing your thoughts, and I love sharing them in some of my podcast episodes. So until next time, take care and be gentle with yourself.